situation. When was the last time, or what was the last thing that you've done that meant that you lived life within your own terms? So back to Mike, can you please share with us a little bit on your professional and also on your personal life so that people can have a really full picture of who you are and why, everything that you are saying to us is really important, as it's something that you've actually done yourself as well.
It's the story I'll give you here. This is there are life-changing moments that we've all had. And I used to work in the corporate world. So I was sales, marketing, management. I was in finance and hotels. And I made a decision I wanted to live and work overseas for a number of years, originally based UK. And I was moving out to Australia with my wife and my 1-year-old daughter in those days. And we were heading overseas. And the reason why I tell you this story is because my father, back in the 1950s and early 1960s, used to live in Singapore as a bachelor. And he partied quite hard, shall we say. He was involved in the cricket club, doing whatever else. And one of his best friends was there, then moved up to Bangkok and set up a container business, logistics. And they stayed in touch over the years. And this was before the internet, so it wasn't easy to stay in touch. So they basically swapped Christmas cards once a year. In 1999, my father sent his friend in Bangkok this card, said I was moving out to Australia, to which this gentleman rang my dad. They didn't speak on the phone. It was purely a pen pal friendship by this stage, unless they happened to be in each other's country. And he said, you really should tell Mike to contact my mate Newton in Perth in Australia when he gets there. We did some land deals in the 1970s. He's a great guy. If he can help, I'm sure he'll look after Mike when he gets there. So needless to say, Mike turning up in Australia with a wife and a baby and a rucksack, spent a little bit of time getting to know the family again because I've been doing the corporate hours. And then I went to see this chap, Newton. And he answered the door and I walked in and he said, come on in, mate. Feeling a bit crook today. Just had my first dose of chemo. But come on in. Let's see what we can do for you now you're over here. Long story short, he was considering investing in a new .com business. And instead of him investing, he plugged me in there because I took commercial skills into the company. And as a result of me joining that company, they were real estate online. So a bit like Zoopla and Fish for Sale in Australia. And I took commercial skills in there. When I moved back to the UK 3 years later, I still had all the shares in there. They bought me out a few years after that. But I did some study whilst I was in Australia. And then when I came back to the UK, I set up my business, which has been going 20 years now. The reason why I tell you this story is because Newton died 3 months after I first met him. So I had this window of opportunity, literally a minuscule moment in time, to meet this chap, all because my father used to go drinking with another guy in the 1950s in Singapore. And Newton, whether he knows it or not, and I doubt it because he passed, changed my life totally. And it's that knowing who those moments in time, it's knowing your network and asking those questions. And we have to seize the day. I know there's many stories about carpe diem and stepping up and everything else. But if we actually act upon those networks, if the gut feel is I could or I should, then let's go for it. Make those changes. If there's somebody else you need help, asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Asking for help is because I'm brilliant at this, but I don't know how to do that. I mean, that whole time when somebody becomes self-employed for the first time and the computer stops working or the printer stops working, and there used to be a department that did that. Now you are the department. you are HR, you are whatever else. And if you're in a startup environment, you've got to fix it all. So you've got to ask for help. You've got to find those people around you who are going to do that. And some will be very generous. Some you have to pay for. Some you can do all sorts of other creative deals with. But you have to actually, in the startup world, become very resilient at asking for help because you do not know all the answers. And the more you think you do, the harder it becomes.
Oh, yeah, you can say that again. I guess this is summarized nicely what my life has been ever since I launched my company. I really learned what it meant to ask for help.
First thing is this, right? Personally, one human skill I would require the person to have is resilience. Because the truth is this, when you're entering into the market at first, there are already people ahead of you that has the capacity of crushing you, whatever you are bringing. They may not initially be in that industry, but if they discover that what you are introducing has the capacity of competing with them, they may just quickly innovate the same thing because they have the resources. So you need to have resilience to keep going, because honestly speaking, you're going to be hit several times, and it's your resilience that will make you keep getting up. We've had challenges, and we'll keep getting up, of course. So I think you need to have resilience, and you must be convinced enough about your own goal, about what you're bringing into the market. Because if you are not convinced enough, there's no way you can convince other persons. It's not possible. Your personal conviction has to be so strong it will swallow the wave of doubt from any other person. You do not expect everybody to just immediately adopt what you are introducing. It's not possible. Humans are dynamic in thinking. They are logical in reasoning. So they can't just accept what you are introducing at first. So you have the responsibility to convince them, and it has to start from you. Your conviction has to be strong. You need to believe so much in whatever you are introducing into the market. So those two things, resilience and strong conviction, because you need to convince the investors, you need to convince the users. So how do you do that if you're not even sure what you are introducing to the market? So those two things
resilience and convictions. I love that. That's really, especially the conviction part, is really, really important.
I saw something that said, even before I met you, I think, Nelly, where there was a day on where, and it said for clinical entrepreneurs, and I looked at what was on offer, the talks, and I thought, I really need to know about that and that and that. But I wish I was a clinical entrepreneur. I wish I was an entrepreneur. That would be good, because then I could go. And so I absolutely did not see myself as that. And the language, I think, is important, isn't it? And it was another person that said to me, I didn't see your name on the list. And it was as an email. And if they hadn't have done, I don't think I'd have ever even considered myself as being in that world. So it was someone said, I didn't see your name on the list. And I nearly fell off my chair that someone considered me it was all right to go. And I signed up. I was like, oh my gosh, this is me. And then that's I do remember that, because I want to pay that forward. That kind of, hey, this is you. This can be you. Why isn't it you? Of course it can be you. Why not? And people, I think some women say, well, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm changing processes within my organization. That's equally as valuable. You are equally as valuable. Social entrepreneurs. I think maybe we need to find the right, and it's, for me, it was important. Like, men have been incredibly important in my journey too, but for me, it was really important to see, to speak to other women who were doing it. And I think that there's probably a million different reasons for that. But I needed people to say to me, it can be you, of course it can be you. And it took me a long time maybe to get to that. And you're right, it is nice to feel comfortable in that environment. And then it becomes really important to me to say to other people, of course this can be you. But I think sometimes there have just been so many pressures from so many different reasons. There's so many different reasons why we all feel that. And it, parents, it's difficult for parents. It's difficult for anyone who feels like they maybe feel like they didn't see anybody else in that role to know that it would be okay. Yeah. So I didn't have that. I don't remember having that growing up, for example. But then I was born in the 70s, so there wasn't a lot of example of that. And even some of those questionnaires that look at your leadership roles, for example, Belbin, and they're all so insightful, but they have been generated at a time when there wasn't a lot of diversity in the workplace. Yeah. And so I just think that sometimes you have to think, and sometimes I see people say, well, I've not got this leadership quality. And actually, there's so many different leadership qualities, aren't there? There's so many different entrepreneurial qualities, leadership qualities. Often all it is saying, do you know, that's your magic. The magic that makes you. That's important. That's what no one else has got. No one's you. And so you can do it your way, in your style, and you can get there if you want to. And actually, maybe the one wonderful thing about women's groups is that women are very good. I know that people can give examples of when women have not supported each other, but actually, generally, women are very good at coming together and supporting each other. And that's been a wonderful thing that's happened over the last 50 years, I think, for saying, oh, you know, you pulled me up and I want to pull someone else up, you know, and say, hey, it's okay. We can have these conversations. It feels hard, but it's okay.
What are some of the challenges that you've seen, especially when tackling a B2B market?
The B2B SaaS market is a nightmare, to put it plainly. So my co-founder, Eleanor, has taken on the impossible task of doing sales, which I really admire her for, because she's just a really tough cookie when it comes to that, because doing your first time doing sales for your own product is just really demoralizing, I think. Because it's just like you could often just end up taking things so personal if people are like, no, this is not the right product, because you're like, this is what I built, this is what I believe in, what I want to do. And she's very good at doing these like very repetitive tasks of just like contacting people on the regular. I mean, Eleanor will sell you absolutely anything. Like, I mean, for the past, like, she's been my best friend for 6 years. Like, anything she tells me, I'm like, okay, let's do it. And so it's like we're very much a good balance when it comes to that, because she's always goes way over the top, just is really, really.
So current working pattern work for you. If not, then change that, as it's going to be a really good way of boosting your energy level. Question number 2, or point number 2. Having quality time with your people goes a long way to improve your well-being. And this is something that in a very fast-paced environment, we don't normally see. We tend to focus more on KPIs, OKRs, things that we do where we can see the results straight away. But things like having quality time with our people is things that we can't really measure. And because we can't measure that, or we can't see the results straight away, it goes behind the pile or underneath the pile of all of the other things that we need to do. One really good way of doing that is to think about changing one-to-ones, so that at least once a month you can really have a coffee, have a nice relaxed chat, really move away from just, what have you done today? And to start really connecting. It's not just about the goals. It's not just about where the other person wants to go, but it's about getting to know them. And the same happened with your teams, right? Think about what I've spoken about a lot over the year since I've started the show, the deconstructed team building exercise that you can start bringing once a month, once a quarter. You don't need a new meeting. Change the current meeting that you have with your team so that you can bring those elements to improve the communication. The more you know the people around you, the more you start really feeling connecting, building the trust, and you are going to improve your mental health and their mental health and well-being. They will feel heard. They will know that together we are working towards designing a happy and productive workplace playground.
There was a point in time where we kind of said we are transitioning now from just being friends into being business partners. And it's not been easy. I think there are points in time where you're sat down in a room discussing something. It gets, we're all passionate about this business. It might get a little bit heated, and we just have to say, look, this is not about who you are, what your idea, like your background, whatever it is. It's about what's going on in the business and how do we progress it. And I think us working through that over the past couple of years has been, it's been a challenge. It's also been enjoyable. It's been fun to watch kind of relationship from an objective perspective, kind of watch relationships develop. And I think that then kind of manifests itself into managing the wider team. We started our friendship by playing football together, and kind of thanks for the compliment. I think there's been some kind of that chemistry on the pitch for us definitely carried on into the business. But then how do we emulate that in our company now with individuals who might hate football, much to our dismay. But it's the same kind of camaraderie. It's the same. We're pushing for the same goal here. We might need a certain person to do a certain thing at a certain time, and I think I revert back to the why. If we can get people behind why we're doing this thing, the core tenets that will lead us to that point, and give them the tools then to go away and do it. Point you in a direction. This is what we're trying to get to. This is why we're trying to get to it. Here are the things you need to get there. Go and do it. I think it's about empowering people. We try and do that with each other. Try and do that with the rest of our team, for sure.
Agreed. And I think also what Will mentioned earlier about keeping healthy mind and body is also very important here, because if your mind is not in the right place or your body is not in the right place, you can have situations or challenges can arise and you will lose your cool, and that's just not that's not helpful for anyone, not for you personally or not for the business as well. So making sure that everyone on the team is taking care of themselves and their mind and bodies in a good place to deal with these challenges is also very important. So.
Now that you've heard from our other guests, how do you feel? I know it's not easy. To just finish off, I'm going to give you 4 tips on what you can do right now to continue with this new momentum and the energy that you now have. First, get things out from your head and put it on paper. What can you do? What are 2 activities that you can do today to help you come back from the situation you are in? Number 2, speak to someone out loud. Pick up the phone, call a friend to discuss your issues. More importantly, find someone to be your accountability partner that can support you and help you to be accountable to the goal that you've set for yourself. Number 3, your mental health is really important. If you haven't done it already, add this task in your calendar so that you can prioritize the activities that you need to help you look after yourself. It could be going to the gym, meditate, going for a walk, whatever it is. Number 4, if all fails and you still feel stuck in a rut, reach out to me. You can find me on LinkedIn and I'm happy to listen to you. No judgment. We've all been through this and you are not alone.